Welcome to Chunk Chat News and Notes. This is for April 20th, 2026. I almost said 19. Anyway, lots of stuff changing in the course of this week, as there is pretty much every week. But we've got new models, sovereign infrastructure, new frontiers, lots going on. So, with the thought that there's lots going on, I'm going to jump right into it and try and go as quick as possible. So the first one is the battle for the surface of work. Where your desktop is where the battle is happening. It's where all of the big movers and shakers are going. What are they doing around desktop presence and even more around workflow and management of control? Grok has dropped a couple of different hints. It looks like they're going after the coding world and coding workflows in their latest build and some of their preview pieces. Their testing catalog shows that they're working through some different ways to be able to charge for different things. They've got a pretty capable coding model now that you can consume via API, but it looks like they're looking for some different ways to be able to do maybe Grok Build. My guess is that they're going to enter the desktop fray for specific tools tuned to be able to do that. Coding is where it's at as the initial battle place, as the next several slides will also talk about. Anthropic is continuing to push further. They've now got the Anthropic Claude Design, and Claude Design allows you to be able to actually prototype initial designs and then be able to take that directly into Canva. They've deepened their relationship and partnership with Canva around some of these different things. So it's not just the ability to be able to make a prettier chatbot or more pretty concepts, but be able to actually take it to that next level of not just designing the software, but designing the design and how that part's going to go. I think that's going to have a lot to do with how usable a number of these different systems are. So it's really exciting to see some work here, not just in terms of being able to do image generation, but actual user interface generation. OpenAI is taking Codex, and I like the way that they phrased this one here, almost everything. They actually have added more capabilities into Codex. It seems like this is probably going to be the direction that they are pointing to for their everything tool. And as they're unifying some of that, you can now generate images inside of there. You can then use that to generate websites. You can use that to generate other things. It is a much more capable. I actually like where it's going. I found it to be very usable here over the course of this last week with the number of different updates that they put in there. It has actually displaced Claude code for me on a couple of different things, and not that I still use all the tools, but I've found that it's actually pretty good. And Google is now actually even coming to the desktop. So if you're on a Mac, there's now a Gemini for Mac. It's not just a wrapper or a pretty wrapper around Gemini for web, but on there, I think you're going to see evolution inside of here, where everyone's trying to get into that OS level directly down to the desktop level. To do that personal automation capability. Those are some of the killer apps when it comes to individuals and when it comes to companies. And so being able to be there, run those different workflows and take control of that computer piece is a very important battle space, I think, for all of these different major providers. So they've been slower in making that push. I think they've got very capable models. They've got they've got some that are differentiated above what some of the others are. So I think it'll be interesting to see as Google gets more serious about this play, how far it is that they go. This is just I thought this was interesting, so I threw it in here. HeyGen has got what they're calling hyperframe. This hyperframe is it's an open source. You can grab it off of GitHub, and it'll take HTML and turn it into an MP4, so an actual full automation. The target for this is not you. The target for this is your agents. Your agent's able to take these type of software components and then build a video with all of the different things that you need, including like voice tracks and all the other different things, assembling those types of items for you. Some of a bet on some of the future of work and the future of delivery, I think, is part of what this is. But it's a very interesting play, worth paying attention to. OpenAI has a new level of subscription. So with the increased capabilities in their desktop tool for coding, their Codex, they've actually now got $100 instead of the $200 pro tier with a focus on Codex usage. So it's actually more Codex usage rather than just the general tool and all of the different pieces. Although with my previous commentary about how I think this is going to be the general one, I think this is just sort of showing that. I think the other pattern to watch inside of here is they are recognizing what that usage pattern actually is, and then moving pricing models around to be able to do that. So some folks who were at the 20, people who are at the 10 are now going to the 20, people who are at the 20 maybe looking at 100, but they didn't want to make the jump all the way to 200. And so giving them different options and having the ability to control that gives them more structure, more flow, and more capabilities without them kind of breaking the ecosystem of what it is that they're charging. So a valuable thing to continue to watch, and important in the economics of AI and daily use for both individuals and for companies. Perplexity, not to be left behind, is also continuing to add more in terms of real world context. So through Plaid, they've now expanded an integration so they can give more financial accounts and integration to be able to give better real time, real world insights, real data insights around workflows and costs and all of the things that go along with that. Now, it still matters around trust and privacy, and you're still using AI models, and it's still a loop through a number of different things. So always be aware of those sorts of items. But this, to me, is important because it points to the place where assistants are going, right? It's not just an assistant that will run a little bit of code or build a little thing for you, but it actually can help you to manage your life, manage your finances, manage your intakes and outflows, etc. So lots of more integrations like this to come. Meanwhile, with the focus and all the side quests are over at OpenAI, we're seeing some executive turnover. So we've seen some of this before. There's been folks that have left in a couple of different waves. It's a great place to be from and to go get some funding immediately from any of a number of venture capital firms. So I don't know that these folks are necessarily, we should feel bad for them, but definitely we're seeing some of the changes in focus. So some of the senior leaders that led particular efforts that are being shut down, like Sora, and others that are getting compressed into, their teams are getting compressed into other areas. Those are the types of folks that are leaving here. So it's not like it's random churn. It's not just executives are leaving, they're bailing ship because they don't believe in the mission. It's really more about that compression, that focus, and what it is that they're going after. So nothing surprising to see something along these lines, but always bears watching when senior executives leave at some of these major companies. Next, there's some interesting developments in the world of law and legislation and how they're picking it up. And that's something that I think is worth everybody understanding at a different level. So Mythos continues to be in the news. It was there. I talked about it last week. The new big model that is too dangerous to release. But the ability now, it's too dangerous, but it's also too capable to leave alone. So that government that we've had this whole drama, soap opera basically level of things of that, will they use it there? No, Anthropic is now a supply chain risk. Well, but we really would like to be able to utilize this, so we got to be able to get access to this. So behind the scenes, they're still working, whether in the workhouse, behind the workhouse, different aspects of the White House are working with Anthropic to be able to get access to Mythos, to be able to use it in different specific frontier areas, specifically around cyber, but in other areas as well, I think. And so this is just an interesting call into what things look like and how messy the real world governance is going to be for a while, as we start to find out ways to sort through these different frontier models and what they can and can't do and where they should and shouldn't be. Meanwhile, OpenAI, not to be left behind, we've got a cyber model too. So they've got a specifically tuned cyber model 5.4 cyber, and it's trusted access only. So very similar to what they're doing with Mythos, where it is a more capable model. It is more focused on cyber and cyber capabilities. It is a limited deployment. It is gated through application and verification. You got to know, hey, this is who that person is before they can get access to it. So clearly they don't want to miss the boat in terms of this, both in terms of the press, but also in terms of the capability and embedding into the ecosystem. Meanwhile, in the courts, this is an interesting one because on the same day, there were two different court battles that went in what would look like different directions. So one where they said, all right, yeah, AI is not legal counsel. You can't have, your chats are not subject to privilege. It is something that they can subpoena and they can bring in. Now, in that particular case, they were trying someone who had been perpetrating fraud. And so they, not really surprised, they decided, well, no, we can pull your chat logs around the fraud, and it proves that it is, you're doing what it is. But then at the same time, a Michigan ruling where a woman had built her own set of legal documents and other things, they said, no, you can use those. That's fine. That work product is now considered your work product, and that's how that part's going to go. So it's blurry. Because it's blurry, law firms are making sure, hey, don't treat it like counsel, don't put anything confidential in there. You actually could be violating your agreement with counsel if you are utilizing an AI on documents that they have got in there, because it could be exposing something that turns it into a discoverable item. So something to track. This is not the end of this particular one. This is going to be an ongoing stream for a while, I think. Meanwhile, this one really concerned me. This Nature warned dubious data in models, actual living, real clinical models, where they're doing clinical predictions around disease prediction, and they've actually been used in some healthcare locations, not here in the U.S., but still, who cares where they're being used? This is a fundamental concern and a potential problem. Something that we need to continue to know where the data is coming from, know how that model is trained. And this has always been true. This is true whether you're talking plain old data science models or whether you're talking Gen AI. You got to be able to source that through and explain why it is you're coming up with those things. Things like this are going to increase the anti-AI fervor, not serve to help it along. Meanwhile, the FDA is also pushing for, hey, you have to release your trial results. So this is not directly AI related, but this is, I think, really important when it comes to how drugs and studies are released. There is actually legal requirement to say, okay, this is the study, this is the method, here is the data. And you can see 29.6% of studies don't report all the stuff that they are legally supposed to. So the FDA is pushing on that. They're actually starting to say, hey, we're actually going to start fining you. We can fine you $10,000 a day for every day that you don't have this in there. And so this transparency is important. It's not, and it's going to be important for many reasons. AI training could be one of those, but also just defensibility about why this is something that should be recommended or should not be recommended. Just because it's a study, if the facts don't line it up, it's not really valid. Dead startups now in the realm of data and where can you get data. So dead startups are becoming premium agent training data. So their data is being reported here. Paywall warning for Forbes, but they're pushing for Slack archives, Jira tickets, email threads, all those types of things. Quality training data. The things that they are doing to be able to get more training data is simply amazing. Meanwhile, health and biotech. There's some real-time changes that are going on and some more growth and capabilities that are hitting as well. So this one is interesting because it's sort of a AI adjacent, but with AI able to read through all these different things, they were able to take 410,000 Reddit posts discussing things that were going on around some of the different GLP-1s, and they were able to trace back to say, okay, here's under-recognized side effects that actually are legit, and there's enough reporting from people to say this is something that we should be thinking about. This is not necessarily a replacement for those declarations or the things around a study and saying here's the actual data, but this is a good thing from a supplement education and understanding how things are actually meeting at scale and with numbers. Everybody's got a unique DNA chain. There's going to be a little bit of a difference, but understanding where some of those things are, this is an interesting bit to watch. Meanwhile, OpenAI has also released GPT Rosalind for biology and drug discovery. I really think this is a field that is going to explode with the capabilities of AI to do protein folding, to be able to focus on biology and on discovery around these things and be able to run tests and lab things and postulates all day long. I think we're going to continue to see growth in this area, and we're going to see a new lane of medicine and science that comes out as a result, not just from OpenAI, but from all of the different labs that are pushing the boundaries here. This is interesting. Is it augmented with AI using a frozen set of cell samples from a brain tumor diagnosis, and they took 3 different segments and they ran simultaneously different things on that same set, And using AI and using some of the modern methods, they were able to shrink the amount of time it took from 20 minutes to 5 minutes. I saw it actually reported at one point like under a minute, but maybe it's they saw the 56 seconds and they misreported it. But when I read the paper, it actually said 5 minutes and 56 seconds. But still, that's 25% of the time. But we're seeing faster and faster ability to diagnose in the moment, which can change the ramifications of this are changing insights and information actually at the time of a surgery in real time. So the faster that you can get that into the operating room, the faster that you can get that to the surgical center, the more you can actually adapt to be able to have better answers. So I think we're at the precipice of these things starting to become real and become in treatment. This is still just a test. This is preliminary in terms of results. There's still more work to be done on this particular one, but it's a sign of things to come. This is an interesting peptide one. So it's a preclinical story, so it's not actually released yet, but this is one where it's basically a GLP-1 in terms of capability, but with fewer side effects. So the preclinical, so it hasn't been tested in humans, but the ability to say, okay, hey, we can utilize some of this to be able to do GLP-1 like effects, weight reduction and appetite reduction, to be able to have that positive effect, maybe without some of the negative effects, is certainly interesting. Lots of research happening in this area. Everybody knows there's everybody's looking for an easy button there. Unfortunately, my image didn't load. I apologize. This one actually with the FGF21, they are not just loading in from a GLP-1, but it's actually accelerating the metabolism is what they're showing. So this is another preclinical study, so it hasn't been tested on humans. There is some expected side effects that are in there, but beyond even just appetite suppression, other different ways to be able to change your metabolic rate, change the way that people are processing things. So another interesting Science Daily published study. And then wouldn't be me if I didn't mention also, hey, just walk. Walking is, and they actually published this the same week. So it doesn't matter how much you sit, walking can lower your risk of death and disease markedly. 9,000 to 10,000 steps per day. That's where the biggest benefits are. But even as little as 4,000 or 4,500 steps per day, roughly half of what that benefit actually is. So get out, go for a walk, move around. It still turns out moving around, regardless of what sort of magical medicines it is that we come up with, is one of the best things for you and for your health. Chips, sovereignty, and supply chains. The physical world and the ability to serve all of these amazing things that we're doing is something which has got continuing ramifications and implications. So Anthropic's new compute deal shows how the industry is chasing after these frontier capabilities. So they've signed a deal with Google, also somebody who they're competing with, and Broadcom, but for $30 billion worth of work. So that they've also upped their numbers, but that huge gigawatt amount of data center and compute, where it's continuing. That's, if you're going to race, you got to have the hardware, you got to have the sneakers to be able to win the race. Meanwhile, OpenAI is continuing to expand their own as well. So the Cerebras relationship is not new, but this amount, they've increased the amount that they're going to spend with Cerebras, and it could potentially reach not just the 20 billion, but to go all the way up to 30 billion. So the hunger for resources, the hunger for inference really is real here. And it's not just training and new models that are getting the headline, but the ability to serve them and serve them well is going faster. So I think this is, again, a sign of things to come. I've talked before about how I see sovereign AI and sovereign capabilities growing in different countries and not wanting to be beholden to another country or somewhere else. So now we're seeing Europe with a sovereign cloud fund. So they're actually funding $180 million in sovereign cloud contracts to reduce dependency on US-based data centers and US-based technology providers. So we're going to continue to see this. This is not a first time. This is not going to be the last time. We're going to see continued growth here. Meanwhile, in the UK, also, meanwhile is apparently my word of the day today. The UK is acting like an investor. They've got their 500 million sovereign AI fund, and they are investing in different startups and investing in different things to try and up the AI capabilities in the UK, in the United Kingdom. So governments don't want to just be a passive onlooker waiting to lift some of those things. They're now becoming an active player inside of technology. I think we're going to see that happen in many other locations as well. So speaking of companies and of becoming an active player, the U.S. and the Philippines are now pushing a new economic zone that is really intended to be able to assist with supply chain, reduce supply chain dependencies on China, be able to send more to different locations, 4,000 acres worth of this particular zone, and it's going to be legislated like the U.S. It's something to watch in terms of growth and in terms of capabilities and dollars and investments, and where are those things going to go. Amazon buys its satellite positions, so they buy Globestar. I think it still has to be approved as a final thing, but the deal is inked for 11.57 billion. It's only like 30, Like I've got a packet full of them, but it's satellites versus the many, like 500, I think is what there is for SpaceX satellites that are out there. But they are continuing to pursue more and more satellites. They've got to hit a certain amount to be able to get a band, to be able to get some government approvals. And this is an important piece in there. And also important because the Globestar is the one that provides a number of the services to Apple. I expect Apple's probably going to use this as a play to be able to bargain against multiple providers and see if there's some other deal that they can get. But I wouldn't expect that to be the end of it. But it's everybody's competing for space too. It's not just on the ground, it's also in space. Economics and then the shape of companies and how they're changing. Lots of interesting things that came out this week as well. A16Z, they had a good write-up. They do a regular blog and where they release all sorts of different thought pieces. This particular one has a number of charts in it around things like valuations. And if you look at actual tech valuations, the idea that tech is cheap, comparatively speaking, to historical norms is fairly accurate. So it's actually, when you look at PE, price earnings, it has compressed down to 2018 level valuations. Now, does that mean that it really is cheap? I'm not so sure. I think actually it suggests that there's tension in that people don't know what AI is going to do to a number of these different firms, and they don't know who's going to be the winners and who's going to be the losers, and there is uncertainty around what the moats are or how the margins are going to live, and so that is what's telling as it's going through that in the stock market. I think this is an area to watch, and I think you're going to see a whole new realm of winners, and you'll see new losers. What has been the Mag 7 may not be the Mag 7 forever. One of the things that backs that up is there's an article here in Fortune, and they talk about an AI native tiny startups, and they actually talk through two different ones where there's like 2 or 3 people who are founders. They're using AI to be able to go faster. They're drawing salaries. They're even saying no to VC money because why do we need it? They're able to sell, they're able to utilize agents to be able to scale, they are able to run with that. They don't need the engineering teams. Very interesting read. Now, I don't know that this is necessarily the true future of all companies, but it is an interesting thing to see. This is proof that you can build a small company and scale that company with just a very few people if you're utilizing AI to its fullest capabilities. Meta is reporting, or there's being reporting that Meta is going to be laying off a fairly significant chunk of people here May 20th. So it could be coming up soon, about a month. That we'll see whether this report is true, but and other additional cuts are expected as things go forward. This is being tied to AI and AI efficiencies. It's not just AI efficiencies, but it's also they want to invest these billions of dollars in training these models, and the models that has to come from somewhere. And you gotta, in any business, part of what you do is not just decide what you're going to do, but decide what you are not going to do so that you can invest where it is that you want to be able to grow those investments. And I think this is part of where we're seeing consequences of some of those things. So not just cost cutting, but focus. Along the lines of CFOs and changes and investment pieces. The XAI CFO, I talked last week, I think, around how the founders, or all the founders other than Musk, have left XAI, and now we're actually seeing the CFO depart as well. Rarely is this just a simple, hey, they're choosing to move on for X, Y, or Z, but it really points to growing changes in that company and where those things are. So it's not just compute, it's money, it's all the things that go around there that are pushing the buttons to make things move. So this makes me sad. But we got to have a physical security layer for the AI virtual world. But somebody threw a Molotov cocktail, gunshots were fired at Sam Altman's home. The growing anti-AI movement is something which is concerning. It's a very polarizing thing, and understanding what that is, what the economic risk is, being able to help with understanding for folks. There's those that are all in, and then there are those who are not, and we have to build those bridges, and that needs to come from government, it needs to come from corporations, it needs to come from individuals all across the board. And then into the bit wider frontier, off and into the space and beyond. So this one I love. it's just a kicker. But there's a startup. They're just coming out of stealth, and they're making a beanie that allows you to be able to wear the beanie and control your computer. So there's the whole set that's where you can whisper now. The whisper controls for your computer. But this one, you're just going to think, and it's able to do it. And it only types at 30 words per minute, which is fairly low, way lower than humans can go. But it actually, they say, will, one, adapt to you over time as it learns more of your methods, and they need to have it be more general purpose up front. But two, as they get more exposure and they get more capability, to do nothing but get better and get faster. They're also working on a baseball cap in case you don't like beanies. But this is interesting because it points to, hey, it's not just glasses that are going to be the future of the interface for computers. Meanwhile, research again into artificial neurons, another image missed, the artificial neurons, and they grew some of these different ones, able to do this not just in digital space, but in meat space as well, to be able to 3D print or use a printer to be able to make some of these artificial neurons and then generate actual realistic electrical spikes as they go across there. So similar to what we see in hardware, similar to what we see in the processors and chips, but in software, real software. I thought this one was great as well. So sperm whale codas, so they sound like vowels when they're talking. So they've actually, this study, they've shown that it's human-like phonological, so vocal patterns. So it's similar to humans. Doesn't mean that they're talking. It doesn't mean that we're going to run them through an LLM and be able to speak one to the other. But it is interesting to see, hey, different speech-like patterns have manifested differently in different locations based upon what it is that those environments have. They're also mammals. They also speak. They are communicating with one another. That is very true. And so the boundary between structured language and signal and it is being shown to be maybe a little less big of a wall than maybe what we thought. Blue Origin, somebody's got to compete with SpaceX. They made a launch. They've got reusability going with their booster rocket. Now, unfortunately, they did not get the actual satellite that they were putting in orbit in the correct spot when they did it, but they were able to reland the rocket. And so this is an important step in the continuing cheapening of being able to send the stuff into space. We're down over 100 times what it was. It's amazing. This is just a phenomenal pace at which things are innovating. And it is rocket science, literally. That's how complicated it is. All right, well, that's it. That's what I have for today. Hopefully you enjoyed today's Truck Chat. You found some useful things inside of it. And I look forward to talking to you all again next time. Tune in, give a like, hit that subscribe.